Thank you everyone for coming. I'm sure we'll have a few more dropping in. I think we had just over 20 people signed up for this one, and I'm going to do a couple of other ones throughout the year. So do keep an eye out. Follow me on Eventbrite because I put the ones, tend to put everything on there. I do a couple of free ones a year and a couple of paid ones a year as well. So keep an eye out for all of that. All of that going through Eventbrite, but yeah, big fan of Eventbrite at the moment, so I'll make sure they're all linked on that. And I've got a new camera set up I'm trying to get used to today as well, so if my eyes start going off in funny directions, you know why. I'm trying to get used to the new camera. Better quality than the one I've been using previously. So welcome to today's workshop, or masterclass. I think I've dubbed it a masterclass. We can get into the debate about the difference between those two words on another occasion. But we can be talking about how we can still get things done when our brain is going, no, don't want to. Otherwise known as procrastination, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's just procrastination that can cause that. There can be lots of different things. I'm Jessica Barkley. I am the Lifestyle Coach UK and the founder of A Happy Lifestyle Club and the author, as of last year. I'm now officially an author of Happy Lifestyle Planner, which is available on Amazon. I teach all things time management, decluttering and organisation. And I had somebody lovely say to me the other day, so basically you sell happiness. And I was like, I'll take that. I like that. I sell happiness. And hopefully I'll bring you a little bit today too. The first things first, when you are trying to fix a problem, is identifying the problem in the first place. You're finding that you're not getting onto the things. There's always those things on your list you never quite get round to. Everything feels very like walking through sludge, trying to get to grips with starting and moving forward with those things. Your brain is like, nah, don't want to do it. And yes, that is the main problem, but trying to dig a little deeper into it. And we can't always find the answer to this, but having a little bit more awareness will help us pick the better solution. So is it boring? Am I just exhausted? Do I need something else? Am I looking for some sort of other stimulation? Maybe I just can't focus. Maybe I'm really fidgety. Like trying to get down a little bit further past it just being like, I don't want to do it. What are you really reacting to? And like I said, you're not always going to find the solution. I am autistic and ADHD. So my brain has a lot of opinions that seem to conflict with me trying to get things done. And I have to work with it, unfortunately. It's like that really irritating co-worker that doesn't ever seem to get fired. And you unfortunately have to keep working with, which is like, just wish you were a little bit more cooperative than you are. That's what it's like with my brain. And I think even when we aren't, even if you have it's called a neurotypical brain, so whether you're a neurotypical or a neurodiverse brain, I think we can all have those moments, but it's trying to learn to understand it. And for me, learning to understand my autistic ADHD brain has really helped me find the solutions that are going to work better for me. So the more you can understand why you're finding something, why you don't want to do it, taking that little moment to go, what is it about this thing that's just making me hit a wall, and seeing if there's an answer. Don't beat yourself up if there isn't. Sometimes our brains just are literally like, no, and there isn't an answer. And we're like, well, I'm just going to pick up one of my tools and hope that this is the one that's going to work. So we're going through 10 tools today. I was like, I could probably get to 15 different ones, but I thought 10 seemed like a safer number to fit into an hour. So there's possibly going to be some inspiring moments added to the 10 as we go through them today. And it's about adapting the tools in your toolkit to suit you and making sure that they are going to work for you. And so we've had a little think, we've gone, why am I struggling to do this thing? Why am I struggling to get this task started or get this to-do started? Why do I find it so hard? If you found an answer, great. If you haven't, don't worry. You might just pick your favorite tool and start there and hope that one's going to work. And my first one is looking at the size of steps. There's a really lovely infographic. If I was doing a PowerPoint to go with this talk, this would be the one. And it's two ladders side by side, and one has got lots of little rungs on it, and one has got big, really wide space rungs. And there's two little bunnies at the bottom, and one of them's reaching up and he can't get to the first rung. And it's I think the first time I saw it, it was on an environmental Instagram, and it was like zero waste or carbon neutral, and the bunny can't quite reach because it was such a high rung, it was such a big first step. And then on the other bunny's ladder, it was broken down into these teeny tiny steps. It was like, stop using tea bags, or buy a refillable bottle, and it was lots of teeny tiny steps. And I've seen the same graphic used not just in eco products and services, but in lots of different ways of like breaking it down into a smaller step. And whenever I do goal setting work in the membership or with clients, I'm always talking about the step is not a step if it feels overwhelming. A step should be really simple. You want to break it down, and if you're looking at that step and thinking, I feel overwhelmed by this, it is too big. Break it down. What's a smaller version of that? And it could be that you can break the task down smaller. It could be that it just feels like it's very overwhelming in time or space. So space example would be looking at a whole laundry basket and feeling overwhelmed by it. Well, you're still folding the laundry basket. There's folding what's in the laundry basket. There's no way of making that a smaller, reducing the actual task down, except you could do space, which would be a smaller number of items within there. So you're like, I'm just going to do 5 of the things. The other one could be time. So if you've got, again, let's deal with a laundry basket. It's because I've been doing laundry this morning. You've got this laundry basket, so I'm just going to do 5 minutes of it. The idea of dealing with all the laundry out feels really overwhelming, so I'm going to do 5 minutes. One of my favourite ones, because let's be honest, if we pick our phones up to set a 5-minute timer, we do everything else but set the 5-minute timer. So I'm going to call her Alex because she's really close by and she'll talk to me otherwise. I have an Alex in my office and we have one in the kitchen, so I will shout at Alex, please set a timer for X amount of minutes. Or if I'm really struggling to get going, I will shout at Alex to play a certain song, and that will be the amount of time. And we're actually going to tap into that as a separate tip later on as well. But those are different ways in which we can reduce those steps down so it doesn't feel overwhelming. If it's feeling overwhelming, reduce it down. And that's why that is my number one, my top tip is like, can we make this smaller? And there's a really lovely quote, cannot remember who it's by, possibly James Clear, I feel like that rings a bell, is go slow, just don't stop. And I really like that with the going that smaller step. It might be that you're like, oh, I don't want to break it down anymore. It's going to take me longer to do it if I do it in 5-minute chunks. Yeah, but 5-minute chunks spread out is a lot quicker than just not doing it. A lot quicker than not doing it. And sometimes we can just hit that wall if we feel like it's too big. And I find this also a lot. There's again, I'm going to forget who said it, but there's the eat the frog first. Do your hardest thing first thing in the day. Like get that really tricky thing. If you have to eat a horrible frog in the day, do it in the morning, get it over with. But actually that can stop us doing anything, because all we do then is we sit and we look at this frog that we've got to eat first, and we get into our own heads that we can't do anything else until we've eaten the frog, so we don't do anything. And it's particularly that eat the frog first is very not ADHD friendly. So if you are leaning towards getting ADHD or you're diagnosed, eat the frog is very un-ADHD friendly, because what you will find is you will go into paralysis and not want to do it at all. So eating the frog first, great concept, but 50% of the time. It doesn't always work. Your brain has to be in the right space to make that concept work. And it might be that actually you need to cut off a little bit of the frog's leg and eat that first. And I say this as a vegan, so well, metaphors here. I love a metaphor. So that's my first one. Break the steps down until they're not overwhelming. Eating the frog first doesn't always work. Step 2, or suggestion number 2, a tactic. Should we call it a tactic? Tactic number 2, motivation. Oh, I wish I could fill this up every morning with motivation instead of water, because it would probably taste a lot nicer. But motivation. we seem to think that it's some magical thing that, oh, you're so motivated, or you've naturally got really good willpower. That's another one. But motivation is something we need to feed. It's something that will come and go and ebb and flow. And I find it really helpful that when I'm first setting my goals is understanding my motivation. We do a lot about this continuously in the membership. I have things like knowing my core values, setting up life goal affirmations. In the planner, in the yearly goal setting section, we write down why we want to do each of the goals so that we can refer back to it. And that is having literally a written down version of our motivation. So when I'm feeling like I just don't get it done, for me, I can literally look up, I can raise my eyes to the wall behind my computer, and there are my life goal affirmations. Those for me are my best form of motivation. I also have, you can see in the background, my vision board I've just redone for this year. And this is where I do my hair and makeup every morning. So I will see it. That, I'm trying to angle my finger. That way is my mirror. That chest of drawers has my hair brush and my makeup in. So I'm there, I see my vision board. That is also feeding my motivation. But if I'm specifically struggling with a specific task, I'm using specific a lot today apparently, specifically struggling with specific task, I need to tap into what is my motivation? Why did I want to do this thing in the first place? How does this connect to my bigger why? Or how does this connect to how I want to be showing up in the world, or who I am? My life goal affirmations, which is the system that I came up with and I teach, and there's a course in the membership if anyone, I think a couple of you are in the membership already, and those watching this on replay, there's a course in there on setting up your life goal affirmations, and they are 8 to 10 statements that represent who you are and how you want to be showing up in the world, to summarize them. So I can look up at everything I do. Everything I do will connect somehow, if I'm doing the things that are right, that is. They will connect to that sheet. If I can't work out how the thing I'm trying to do connects to that sheet, I probably shouldn't be doing it, which is another one of my tips in a minute. But understanding your motivation for it. So when you're looking at that basket of laundry and thinking, I want to do this, it's just like, yeah, but actually I really want calm mornings. So I want to make sure everything's in the right place so that the kids can find their own stuff, they can get themselves ready, and we can all leave, and the morning's going to be less stressful. So you're not emptying a basket of laundry, you are creating calmer mornings, and you can tap into that motivation. So why is it this thing that you're trying to get your brain to do that it's going, nah, not interested? What is your motivation? And I said, if you can't come up with a clear motivation for why you're doing this, you need to question, should I be doing this at all? And it's not always the thing that we want to do. And this sort of taps into the Marie Kondo, does it spark joy? And I think the example people always say is a hammer. Well, a hammer doesn't spark joy, but I probably need to keep it. And I was like, yeah, but my ability to put up a picture whenever I want, or repair a piece of furniture whenever I want, that sparks joy. And the hammer is connected to that. So sometimes there's a link. Lord, I haven't got any motivation to empty a basket, but I have got motivation to have a calmer morning. Or what if I empty it and put it all away now, I'm going to be able to find the things that I need when I need them. So it's going to save me time. And I feel motivated to save time so that I've got more time to cuddle on the sofa with my kid, which is my absolute favourite thing to do of all time, forever and ever. Amen. So finding that motivation. Tactic number 3, do pop any questions if they're popping up in the chat. Yeah, the song one, so we've got a couple of people in the chat mentioned about the song, but using the song as a timer and a kettle, but I'm gonna tap into that a little bit again further down the list. It comes back because it's such a good one. So number 3 is decluttering your mind and or your space. Obviously, I teach decluttering for work. It's one of my bread and butter services. I have a course in the membership. I do still do some in-person client work as well. I do one-to-one virtually as well. I love decluttering and organising. It is my happy place. If I get nothing done in my house and I'm like, I just want to do something today to make me feel like I've been productive, I will declutter something because it will fill up all the dopamine. So much dopamine when I declutter and organise. Reason why it's part of my job. And But there's also so much research into, even if you don't get the buzz from decluttering, like me, like the psychopath that I am, having that calmer space, it will create so much more energy within your environment, mental energy, physical energy within your environment, the less clutter that we can have. Now, clutter is anything physical, mental, or virtual that doesn't serve you or doesn't serve you in its current location or current state. I'm going to say it again, it's quite a mouthful. Clutter is anything that doesn't serve you in its current location, or doesn't serve you in its current state. So a current state might be that it's broken, a zip's broken, you love the jacket, but the zip's broken. So until the zip is repaired, that item is clutter. Now that doesn't mean you need to get rid of it, it means you need to get it repaired, or you can repair it. A lamp, the bulb has blown. The lamp is now clutter because it isn't serving you in its current state. Your kids' toys on your office floor. They're not clutter themselves, because if they were in the toy box in your kid's bedroom, they wouldn't be clutter. But on your office floor, they are not in the current, they're in their current location becomes clutter. And then there are just the clutter things that we just want to get rid of in general. That just, it doesn't matter where we put them in our house or what we do to them to repair them, they are going to continue to be clutter. So that's what I define clutter as, and would encourage you to embrace as a definition of clutter too. So clearing out those things, making that either physical space or mental space. Mental decluttering is really great, because all you have to do is write it on a piece of paper. Now there's lots of things you should be doing it then to actually then be able to work through those items and having a to-do list system, blah 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 blah. But first things first, write it on a piece of paper. I used to call them brain dumps, but I just don't like the word dump, so I've switched it now and I call it a brain drain. I'm draining off my brain so there's lots of space for everything else that needs to go on there. I really envy airheads, because actually having a head full of air sounds really, really nice, as opposed to a head full of things that I need to get done. So decluttering your head, writing it down, doing that brain drain is a great way of getting that bit of clarity, and then you can start moving forward with that specific one thing that you needed to do. For me, particularly the tasks that I find harder, writing, I do love to write, but I find it very hard to start writing. I have to have a clear desk. Of all the tasks, if I'm going to write a long document, the desk has to be clear. So giving myself, if I find that I'm struggling to get whatever it is I'm starting to do, I will look around my space and be like, what is it? What in my physical space is probably stopping me from doing it? And depending on how your brain is, so my autistic brain very much knows that there's a piece of paper over here that shouldn't be here. So if I was struggling to get a task done, I know why, I kind of know why it's there. It's because I was tidying out a drawer yesterday. But I would, if I'm struggling to do something here, I know how fussy I am, that bit of paper being there could possibly derail me from doing it. Now, most people aren't that extreme. Know thyself, and I know thyself is that extreme, particularly if it was one of my really, really hard tasks. But look around your space and say, what is it here that is distracting me? Is there some dirty dishes on the floor by your desk, like from lunch, and you need to clear those away before you can focus on your work in the evening, in the afternoon or the evening? Like, what is it that's around you that could be having a negative impact? And that could be a case of you are going to just have to move somewhere quieter because you can't deal with that space right now, but we're circle to that one. So is there anything physical, mental that you can declutter that is derailing you from getting that thing done? It could be that you're trying to sort something out on your phone and you just need to whack all the other apps in one folder, or you need to turn off their notifications. There's lots of different ways that we can declutter from our lives. It's not just clearing out a drawer and moving stuff around, or putting things in a cupboard, or throwing out all our stuff and becoming a minimalist. And there might be different ways that clutter is impacting different things that you do within your life. I was trying to keep my desktop quite clear on my computer screen, because otherwise for me that's clutter. So identifying the different things in your life and how that's happening. So number 4, one of my favourite. We touched on this a little bit. Neurodiversity. I added this one in because I find, as a neurodiverse person, I attract a lot of neurodiverse people, either diagnosed or undiagnosed. So if you are finding that your brain is hitting a wall on any kind of regular basis, and like we talked about at the beginning, you can't personally find an explanation for why, consider looking into whether you have a neurodiverse brain and getting diagnosed. The clarity of getting diagnosed, and actually me pushing myself to get diagnosed, is thank you to one of the Claires that's in the room. Finally, I think she'd been saying it to me for years, and I finally went, I need to actually do something about it. And having that actual diagnosis really made a difference to understanding my brain. Like we talked about at the beginning, trying to work out what it is that you're finding is stopping you from doing the thing. And it may be that you are sometimes going to hit a wall that you can't get over, particularly if you've got a neurodiverse brain. So having a look at that. So neurodiversity is things like OCD, ADHD, ASD, which is the new term for autism. Abbreviations drive me nuts. HSP, which is highly sensitive person, and RSD, which is rejection sensitivity dysphoria. Sometimes the D stands for something else. But why they make them all abbreviations that are really hard to remember is beyond me. But there's a collection of them. So it might not be something as extreme as ADHD or autism, but they can be things that you will be overwhelmed by something. So rejection sensitivity dysphoria, if you are struggling to get your brain to do something and you have recently experienced some sort of rejection that shouldn't seem like a big thing, it might be literally shutting your brain down. So that could be something like, I'm trying to think of a really small example. Someone cancelled a coffee with you. That's a tiny thing. They were busy, or they're cold. They've got a cold. Like, it can be really, really logical reason to why they have quote unquote rejected you. But if you have RSD, that will have a whole chain of reactions in your brain, and that will feel like a big thing. And it doesn't matter whether the logical part of your brain is saying this is not a big thing. The RSD part of your brain will be going, this is a big thing, and it will be like it's trying to process something massive. And until we understand that if we have these neurodiversities, until we understand that, it's very, very hard to not just beat yourself up about it and be like, why? Like, this tiny thing happened, why does it feel so big? And it's like, because your brain is programmed for it to feel so big, and it's okay. And I think once you can understand those elements, there's a lot of discussion around labeling and whether labeling is good or bad. And I think it's how you process it. Like any tool, a tool can be good, a tool can be bad. Like eat the frog we talked about earlier. You're using it right, it can be great. If you're using it wrong, it can be paralyzing. If it's not, or not, you say using it wrong, using it in the wrong situation, it can be paralyzing. And so if you are finding that you really related to the title of this masterclass, and you are finding repeatedly that your brain is shutting down and being like, no, we are not doing anything, or you're really, really struggling to stay on the task that you want to get done, even though you know you have the motivation, even though you know they connect to what you want to do, then do have a look into neurodiversity. The more I've read into it, the more I think we are going to end up with, like, within my lifetime, potentially a bit of a 50-50 split. At the moment, I think ADHD, they say it's something like 2.5%, but it's historically underdiagnosed in women, or in the female presentation, which they are now finding a lot of males also present in the female presentation. They go undiagnosed. So have a look into it. I would not be surprised if within my lifetime it got to the point where we were 50-50 split, as much as you get the predominantly people identify as male or female, and I know we have the they pronouns as well, but that kind of split, I could see us getting to that point with the spectrum of neurodiversities that are available. So if you really connected with today's title, then you might want to have a look into that and see if there's one that connects with you, or like me, 2. In theory, there's actually 4 in that list that I classify, I suppose, identify as, and it's often very common if you have one neurodiversity that you will also have another. So that's why I went undiagnosed for such a long time, diagnosed dyslexic, and so everything got blamed on that. And actually, I had multiple things going on. It's also fun. So again, any questions? Yeah, thanks, Claire. I knew the first day I met you. Thanks. I only listened 10 years later. So number 5 is nourishing your brain. We think that our brain will just keep going no matter what, but it will reduce in its capabilities if we haven't eaten good things, if we haven't drunk water. I am so bad at drinking water. It's one of my goals for this year. So I have this bad boy. Father Christmas got me a lovely glass bottle. It has a protective pouch so I can put it in my bag as well. It's got a flexi straw, so I literally, every possible feature that would make me drink water. And I also have an app that goes off like every hour telling me to drink water. I'm now trying to fix my Apple Watch, so my Apple Watch vibrates to tell me to drink water because I'm that bad at doing it. And I will very easily go for like 2 days and the only thing I will have will have been coffee or an energy drink, and that's just not great. And it's got the countdowns on it. It's a pretty colour, so I love having it on my desk at the moment. It kind of coordinates with my nails as well. And it's got the different times, and I have a goal on my app, and I get a little trophy the days that I do it, because I'm that bad at drinking water. I have been working on this habit my entire life. I'm still not good at it. I still need lots of reminders. And once the novelty of a new bottle and January has worn off, I will also set some alarms on Alex, as we're calling it for this session. I will set some so Alex can remind me in my office throughout the day to drink more water. Because otherwise your brain is not going to want to play. It's not having. I won't go hugely into the science of nutrition. I do have some nutritionist qualifications, and I used to work in health and fitness. So, and even then, I still struggle to drink water. But understanding the benefits, understanding what your brain needs, it predominantly runs on the energies that we get from carbohydrates. So be very, very careful if you're doing an extreme low carbohydrate diet. Personally, wouldn't recommend, because what is life without pasta? It's the greatest thing in the world. Make sure that you're feeding your brain in the right way. And we often find we'll get into a slump, we can't get our brain to go, so we'll go and we'll grab something sugary and we'll grab some sweets, but then the problem is it's not actually giving our brain what it needs. We need to be looking at some more of those whole foods. An apple, have an apple on the side of your coffee. Coffee's wonderful, to be honest. It's very yummy, very nice, it smells good, and it gives us caffeine, which is also awesome. But make sure you're also giving it some fruits, vegetables, all that kind of thing as well. So if you feel like I just can't get my brain in gear, when did I last eat? What did I eat? What have I eaten over the last few days as well? Because if you've had a couple of crazy days where you've been out and it's been all junk food, that's fine. Like, it happens. We're not all going to eat perfectly all the time, but that could be why your brain is struggling to get on board with what you want it to do. Is it sitting up there going, I've got nothing. Got nothing to give you. And go give it some water. Go give it some good food. And number 6, look at us nearly running on time and everything, is rest. Just as much as we need to be feeding it with good food and good water, is, have you slept enough? Have you actually been having rest? Have you been having rest awake as well as sleep rest? Because giving your brain a rest while you're still awake is also really important. And as much as we don't want to sit doom scrolling on our phones, sometimes it's nice to just have that little bit of a chill. For me, have to set a timer, because otherwise 3 hours will disappear very quickly. So I will set myself a 10 minutes timer, or I'll go in and be like, I'm only going to look at pictures of puppies. Love looking up pictures of King Charles Spaniels, because that's the dog I want to get eventually. So I will go 10 minutes of just resting my brain on this drivel of looking at really cute puppies. King Charles puppies are particularly cute, as well as making sure that I'm getting the right amount of sleep. There is a lot in hustle culture around, oh, you only need 4 hours and it's fine. And while we do individually have fluctuations in how much sleep we need, there will be underlying impacts of not getting enough sleep that we don't necessarily register. Constantly, continually undersleeping can increase risks of things like cancer, or stroke, of dementia, all these fun things that we don't necessarily realize lack of sleep has been impacting until we get the issue, until we have the health condition, until we're older. Sometimes it's going to, lack of sleep can really affect the quality of life in the later years of your life. So make sure you are getting that sleep. Make sure it's just good quality sleep as well. Things like if you're having a lot to drink and alcoholic substances before bed, the quality of your sleep, you might feel like you've slept for a long time, but the quality of your sleep is going to be lower as well. Drinking coffee later in the day, I used to be like, oh no, it's fine, I can drink coffee late and I'll still go to sleep, but the quality of my sleep is really, really low. So watching caffeine intake, start to understand like how late in the day can you consume caffeine, and that will depend on the type of caffeine that you're having. So I can have coffee a little bit later than I can have a pre-workout. They're both caffeine, but they're different types. I can eat an apple quite late, which does have natural caffeine in it. But if I drank a coffee that late, it would impact my sleep. So learning you and what affects the quality of your sleep is really important. Same with my partner doesn't sleep as well if he goes to bed on a full stomach. I do. So you do you, understanding what you. There is a book called Why We Sleep. It is very, very good. And if you're like me, if I feed myself with information, I find it a lot easier to maintain a habit. And once there's a lot in that book that once you see it, you can't unsee it. So I was like, I need to look after my sleep a lot more. So that one I'd highly recommend. And before we move on with questions, yes, it's like, as much as you see jokes around motherhood and needing wine or gin, which I don't necessarily agree with, you don't have to drink to survive parenthood at all. You see that a lot with caffeine and ADHD people. So up to a certain point in the day, for me, caffeine will have a positive effect on my ADHD, but at a certain point in the day or at a certain point of caffeine intake, it will make me go to sleep. So it's about matching it with your energy levels. So I can have a pre-workout and it will put me to sleep. So fun if I've timed it wrong. So I have to time it right and I have to get moving pretty quickly afterwards, otherwise my body will be like, oh, stimulation to sleep, this is what this is, and when it's not that way. So yeah, the caffeine and ADHD is a really fun balancing act, really fun game. But again, just because it's putting me to sleep doesn't mean the quality of my sleep will be any good either. So I can't even use it as a way to get to sleep quicker, because that's what people used to do. Oh, I can't get to sleep, I'll have a whiskey. But then it would impact the quality of their sleep, which affects them being able to go to sleep the next night and things. So it all kind of snowballs. So what puts you to sleep doesn't necessarily give you good quality sleep, because that's the same with sleeping tablets. And often sleeping tablets will stimulate unnatural sleep, which doesn't actually rest and recharge you. I'm full of fun facts today. It's when I do these master classes that I come out thinking, I'm actually quite intelligent. I actually know quite a lot. So, number 7, movement. If your brain won't get into the activity that you're doing and you've been static for a while, it might need some movement. Simple ones. I teach this one to my daughter if she can't focus. So just do this under the table, because not always very helpful if she just stands up in the middle of her class and starts doing star jumps. But I do teach her that if she's really struggling to focus, just to ask her teacher if she can just step out of the classroom and just do a little run on the spot or do some star jumps. But we can do it for ourselves too. So it might be that I'm like, can't get my brain to engage with this task. I'm gonna go downstairs, get something and come back up. And it might be like some random inanimate object, but it's just the going down the stairs and coming back up the stairs that gets me moving. I might just like, I'm just going to walk around the house and check that all the windows are locked or all the windows are open for 10 minutes, and then walk back around and shut them all. And it's that bit of movement. Dancing relates to, if you're timing yourself with a song, be like, I'm going to put a song on, I'm going to do this movement for the length of the song, and then I'm going to get back into focusing. And it's having that addition, that different stimulation, getting something moving, getting your blood pumping, getting the hormones moving around, getting the dopamine going, get something, and it can be in that movement. So yeah, if you're sitting down, just shaking your hands, just shaking your head, have a couple of little stretches. Star jumps are brilliant because you make the shape of a star. Like, what's not to love? And you can do them at a different pace. And you do them with your arms bent. If you find full star jumps, whatever your if you've got mobility issues and you find full star jumps hard, just literally chicken dance. You can chicken dance in your desk. You can wiggle from your hips in your desk. I actually have 2 chairs in my office so that I can adjust my position, so that I've moved about to just, I've got a kneeling stool. Come up on Facebook Marketplace for free quite often. So it's like you have a seat and then you bend, your legs get bent back underneath you and you kneel on it. But I can also sort of sit my legs up here on it. And I saw another chair the other day that had like a back rest and then a knee rest that swiveled, so you can put it in loads of different angles. All those different kind of things I tap into to give my brain a little bit of a jolt, like an electric shock, to get it moving and doing something. So some sort of movement. In an ideal world, going for a lovely walk in nature is going to be brilliant for your brain. Term actually that Rebecca, who's in the room, introduced me to, forest bathing, and it's something like, something like 3 hours. Immersing yourself in forest can reduce your cancer risk by like a huge amount. It's like a huge amount, and it like stays with you for quite a long time. So having 3 hours in woodland and nature and forest, without being on your phone or a podcast or anything, just enjoying nature, has been statistically proven to reduce your risk of cancer. And I was just like, we've got a really good wood down the road. I need to get my butt in there a bit more. But if it's just going to be shaking it out, stretching your neck, rolling your neck around, doing some star jumps, whatever it is that you need to do. And if you are really exhausted, or I know we've got people in the membership with chronic illness and things, so even if you are stuck in bed, and lying in bed is just thinking from the lowest limb you've got. So for me, that would be my toes, like wiggling. I'm going to work through and try and wiggle each of my toes. Very hard. You ever tried wiggling your little toe on its own? It's really hard. So wiggling all my toes, going through my ankles, moving my knees, moving my hips, moving my waist. I'm going to just work my way slowly up my body until I've moved everything. And even if you are lying in bed, you can go to your lowest, whatever your lowest limb is, and work your way up to whatever your highest limb is that you've got the capacity to move, moving it. And it will do your brain so many things, and your body. The body will feel nice as well. You should always try and move everything. But yeah, even if you are on the sofa, incapacitated, there will be something of you. You can move around, even if it's just, I'm going to look around the whole room, with my eyes. So I move my neck and number 8. I think this is my favorite one. Rebecca's put a link in the chat for forest bathing, so if you want to read up more about forest bathing, she's shared it in there. Thank you very much, my lovely. And I'm going to save it quickly, because I think when I upload this for the replay, the chat disappears. So I'm going to just save that quickly before I forget, and then I can add it to the 1 minute copy. There we go, copy. And I can add it into so somewhere in the comments or the show notes, wherever you're watching the replay of this, I'll make sure that link's in there as well, so you can read more about forest bathing. So number 8, my favorite one, gamification. It's such a good word. How can you not love something that's called gamification? Brilliant word. So gamification is anything like timers, alarms. We talked about the songs, joining a challenge. It could be, I sometimes do it with the kettle. I'll put the kettle on, or I will reheat my lunch in the microwave or the oven or whatever, and I'll use that timer. So instead of deciding, oh, I'm going to spend 15 minutes doing X, I'll be like, well, my dinner takes 15 minutes to heat up in the oven. That's going to be my timer. And so I'll put my food in, set the timer for the oven, and then I'm like, right, I'm going to get as many household tasks done, or I'm going to clean as much of the bathroom in as long as it takes my food to go. That's part of gamification. The app for my water on my phone, gamification, and even things like co-working and stuff can be gamification. But we'll talk about that in number 9, so I won't talk about that. And there's so many different ways. Joining challenges, be it one-off challenges or ongoing challenges or groups of friend type challenges, that's all gamification. When you can join like teams on things like Strava for running or walking or hiking or whatever, that's gamification. If you create a little wall chart of things and give yourself a star chart. Why did just kids get star charts? I want a star chart. Where's my star chart? Make yourself a star chart. Get yourself some cool stickers. Like, set yourself some little rewards. Be like, I'm going to have a hot bath with the fancy bath salts when I've got 5 stars in a row. If that's going to help you, I mean, you deserve to have the hot bath with the fancy bath salts at any time, obviously. But if that's going to help motivate you to get the things done, then do that. I think we used to, I think people are being a bit more honest about it now, but they used to make it look like, oh, you just get it done. You just eat the frog and you just achieve your goals and you just get everything done every day and you get up early and go to bed later. And it just wasn't realistic for most people. A lot of the original like self-development books were written by sort of the category of authors that would be clarified as middle-class white dudes who didn't necessarily have a home to run. And we live in a crazy world, particularly at the moment. It's like even more crazy. But we live in an ever-changing world where things happen and crises happen and personal crises happen, and there's always something going on. And a lot of these tactics are not realistic, and we're not just going to get up every morning and magically have the willpower and motivation and energy to achieve everything. It's not going to happen. So if I need a star chart to do what I want to do, I'm going to use a star chart. I'm going to announce it on Facebook that I'm trying to do X challenge, or I'm going to set up a Instagram group. In the membership, we have groups within the membership for different things. There's a book club, there's a goals one for people to share their goals and find accountability buddies. We have a challenges one, and that could be that I'm running a challenge in there, or it could be that someone else has set their own challenge and they might be doing it with a couple of other members or anything. It's just, challenges can be really, really motivating. And I think they have been demonized a little bit because they're often used as like sales pitches, aren't they? You sign up for so-and-so's challenge and at the end you get a really strong pitch for whatever it is they're doing. And it's usually because it's very helpful. If you found the challenge helpful, working with them you will probably find helpful. But there's also things like, oh, it's 75 hard, which sounds psychotic. And it's like 75 days. And there's a whole load of things you have to do each day. And if you miss one thing on one day, you have to start your 75 over again. And it's like, I think it's 45 minutes of exercise or 2 rounds of 30 minutes of exercise every day. It's called 75 hard for a reason. And people are like, but that's not sustainable. But if you do something like that for 75, I mean, that's quite an extreme one, an example. But if you do that 75 days hard, you can then take from that what you want to and move it forward. You can create challenges. Aren't always designed to be sustainable. They're designed to be a challenge that set amount of time. In the Facebook group, the free Facebook group, I do a challenge in March and a challenge in October. And we do a declutter downfall, which is where you declutter 30 items on the first day, and as each day of the month progresses, you declutter an item less. So the last day of the month you only have to declutter 1 item. And then we do a declutter snowball, which is where we declutter 1 thing on the first day and the snowball rolls and it gets bigger. So 1 thing on the first day, 2 things on the second day, etc. And you could do that every day. If you had to, every day you were going to declutter 1 more item, you would run out of things eventually. Eventually that's not sustainable. Obviously the downfall's not sustainable because at some point you get to 1 and then you get to 0. It's not it's not designed, challenges aren't always designed to be sustainable, and that's okay. They don't have to be sustainable. But it's what you take from them. I did The Miracle Morning, which is a really good book. For me, it's not a sustainable thing. It is designed to be. So I did myself as a challenge. I did 6 months of sticking to The Miracle Morning. And at the end, so basically there's a load of things you have to do every morning. And at the end of my 6 months, I then picked from that what was going to work for me and adjusted some of the things that he taught to suit me. Very much like middle-class white dude book. Not realistic for the majority of people, my opinion. But did it as a challenge, and 6 months probably quite hardcore. You could have done it for like 2 months and taken away from it what you wanted to. You probably could have done it for like 2 weeks and taken away what you wanted to, but I wanted to give the 6 months a go. But do that, do it as a challenge, use that gamification, and then take from it that you want to move forwards. And one of my favorite gamifications for getting my brain involved is co-working, but we're going to talk about that in the next one. So number 9 is change your environment. Sometimes I'm literally just bored of being in my office and I want to work somewhere else. And that could be working on the sofa under my fluffy blanket with my laptop on my lap. That could be working in my kitchen. I find I'm bizarrely productive in the cafe at my gym, even though it's often really noisy. I put my headphones, like noise cancelling headphones in, and put some focus music on. But that being in a different environment. Our library is also really nice. There used to be a couple of cafes near where I used to live that I would go and do it, or I'd join in-person co-working ones too. Maybe you can buy memberships to different co-working hubs, so you pay sort of one flat thing a month and then you can go along as many times as you want. It's normally got like free tea and coffee included or something, so it works out cheaper than going to cafes and feel like you always need to be buying something. A gym I was a member of before we moved. I particularly joined that one because it had a really lovely co-working space, and they had lovely filtered water that was free and included, and loads of plug sockets and nice tables and coffee chairs, and you could just go and co-work there without feeling like you have to buy anything from a bar or restaurant or whatever. So finding those other spaces. Like I said, my gym I'm a member of, so that's free. I can go and sit in there, and although they have a cafe, they've never looked at me funny if I've been eating my own food. The library, I think I've ever tried to eat in the library. I'm not sure how that works, but I can definitely drink my own drinks in the library. And there's a table at the end that looks out over the canal, which is really nice as well. But finding those different places, and this is someone who has struggled with agoraphobia as well. I still sometimes need to leave my house and go and work somewhere else. But it could also be that maybe you need to make a semi-permanent change to your space. So it might be that you're going to swap the wardrobe and the desk, and I guess the wardrobe's that wall. Maybe I'm going to swap those two round so that I'm always facing that way, and I've got the sunlight coming in on this eye instead. And I switch the room around and have it like that for 6 months, 12 months. So just think, if you haven't changed your space in which you're working a lot and you're finding you're stagnating a lot, it could be that you need to move things around. Other things for changing your environment could be heat. So are you too cold? Are you too hot? And also flow of air. Sometimes my brain will be like, meh, meh, and actually all I need to do is open the damn windows. Think about that as well. Maybe you just need to go and open the windows, and that taps into the movement. So you've walked around the house, you've opened all the windows, and then you've walked around again and shut all the windows because it's damn cold at the moment, so you can't leave them open for too long, but you've got that air. You've changed your environment. Laura's put in the comments, you change of place and change of pace. Yes, I like that saying, a change of place and a change of pace. Really good as a bit of a reset. The other one, if you can't move your desk around, if you can't change, maybe, and this could be at work, if you actually go and work in an office somewhere, it could be that you just give your desk a rearrange. If you can't even do that, is doing co-working. And I host an online free co-working. It's Thursday today, isn't it? Yeah, it's this afternoon. So 1 till 3 on Thursdays, I do a free online co-working. The link's always in Eventbrite if it's on. So if it's not an Eventbrite, it's not on that week, but it's pretty much every week. We had a break over Christmas. And we have timers. So it's something different on your computer screen because there's a timer up, and we do blocks. We have 5-minute rests. And then our first block is 10 minutes. So we just do a 10-minute job to get ourselves going, and then we have a 5-minute break, and then we do a 25-minute job. And we do 3 blocks of 25 minutes with 5-minute rests in between, and then we finish on 10 minutes. So it's 2 hours total. But even that can feel like a change of environments, because you're going from working on your own to working with people. And sometimes we've got loads of people in the co-working, and sometimes there's like just 2 or 3 of us. If there's less, we usually unmute and say what it is we're going to do. So in the break, we'll say, I'm going to get this done, or I'm going to get that done. And then we'll come back at the end and say, I did or I didn't get it done, I overcommitted, or my phone went. And having that awareness of why we haven't got the thing done, I find quite helpful. So I'll drop it into the chat now as well. So if anyone wants to join today's, so it's 1 till 3 UK time, but I pretty much do it every Thursday. So I've dropped it into the chat, the link for today. If you're watching this on replay, I'll drop the link to my Eventbrite that has them all on there, and they're free to join. It just means that you get sent the right link and the reminders and stuff. I do it through Eventbrite. I don't have to send you reminders myself. So yeah, that's my like worst case scenario. I love co-working for the gamification, for the accountability, for the community. I love the timer element of it as well. But also worst case scenario, if I can't change my environment and I'm feeling like I need to, joining a co-working I find really helpful. Occasionally they have them on Clubhouse, but and there's other people that do them on Zoom and stuff, but I have a visual timer as well that comes up, a little countdown clock, and a horse whinnies every time we start a new block of work, which of course just fills me up with dopamine. Gotta love the dopamine. So 4 minutes remaining. If you've got any questions, do pop it in. We've got our final top tip hack is positive procrastination list. So once we start moving, it's harder to stop. Like, we get some momentum going, and if we are struggling to start the actual task we're trying to do, then tap into one of my fave skills, positive procrastination. So I'm going to grab, if you're in the membership, I've done a video on setting this little book up. This is my weekly to-do list, and that is on my list to edit by the end. That'll be edited and up in the membership by the end of next week. But one of the things I set up in it is having my positive procrastination list. I don't know if you can see that. The camera's a bit weird. I don't know if it's reflecting or whatever. But it's at the back of my weekly to-do list book. And it's just some little things that I can do that are positive, they're helpful. They help me to feel like I'm achieving something, but they are great, easy procrastinations. So if I'm really struggling to get going on something and I don't want to beat myself up in an hour's time because I've done nothing, I might as well do one of my positive procrastinations. So mine are like edit the photos on my phone. So going through and deleting duplicates. It's nice and easy. I can just sit back and chill. I can change environments. Maybe I'll go and sit in that. My daughter has a big comfy recliner chair in her room, so maybe I'll go and sit on that chair and delete some photos on my phone for 10 minutes. Again, I'll set a timer because otherwise I'll do it for hours, and then I'll come back to my task. I'll do a little positive procrastination. Sort the saved images on my Instagram. You know, we always save things and we never go back to them. Well, I do. Clear my purchase emails, so things that I've purchased that I've consumed, because I don't purchase many things I can't eat. So I've consumed them, it's done. I definitely can't return the item. I'll go and delete the emails from those. Clearing my inbox, it's a little bit more hardcore. That's often something I also procrastinate doing. It's often the hard thing I'm trying to get my brain to do. But sometimes actually just going through and deleting old messages is a good positive procrastination. Searching for recipes, if you like cooking. Updating my wish list. I don't want to add things to a list of things that they'd like one day. And looking up pictures of campers and dogs. Because the camper's probably a bit more positive. I know what the dog looks like. So, but looking up camper inspo, we want to convert a van ourselves in the next 2 years. So looking up inspiration, but how we would do that can be quite nice. A nice positive procrastination. So I still have achieved something useful, but it's also got me moving. It's got me doing, like, mentally moving. It's got me doing something. And when our brains don't want to, and we are literally just in full on paralysis of getting nothing done, and just kind of sitting here mentally staring at my to-do list and not achieving anything, just grabbing one of our positive procrastinations. And I've had those same, I think those ones have all been on the list. Maybe the camper inspo got added last year, but I think those have all been on a list in the back of my weekly book for like 4 or 5 years. But it's still helpful to have them written down so you don't have to think. You can just grab it and look at it and go, I'm going to do that. You don't have to think about it. So do write it down. Another good list, I don't have the back of my book anymore, but used to have is things that would cheer me up. So I used to have about 10 different things that I knew would cheer me up, so I just didn't have to think. If I was feeling blue, to go back, smoothie, and I just had to pick one of 10 things instead of having to think things through, and find that really, really helpful. And so, Rebecca, lovely to see you. I'll see you soon. So those are my top 10. Like I said, there probably would be more that we could add in. So maybe I'll have to do a part 2 at some point. But those are my main ones, the ones that I really think about. I will be popping the replay for this in the Facebook group. So let me pop just if you're not in the Facebook group, let's pop the link to that. So the replay for the Facebook group will be in there, and I will also send this link in an email too. So you'll be able to watch it back and go through all of them as well. And if you're really ready to step things up, is obviously joining the membership. Is a Happy Lifestyle Club. So it's only £12 a month, and you can leave at any time. So it's non-contracted. It's literally, you can just opt in for a month. I only ever do I do a yearly option at Christmas, but otherwise it's just join and leave whenever you want. So if you know you're going to have a busy couple of months, you can unsubscribe for a couple of months and come back whenever you like. But all the courses and stuff that I've referenced today are in there. We do the monthly goal setting every month, and then there's additional workshops and things that I run that are members only. We had one yesterday, yesterday on Trello. We've set up Trello, and there's part 2 on Monday, and then even the free ones, so things like this, I will save a copy of it into the membership as well, so you can access everything in there. So if you're watching this and you're in the membership, you can also watch this in the membership as well as everything else. Always, any video that I record for anything, anywhere, I make sure goes into the membership as well, so you're not missing out on all the bits and pieces. But thank you so much for being here. I think I've popped all the links in for Facebook group. So Facebook group is free. The co-working this afternoon is free if you want to come and join that. And then the membership is just £12 a month with no contract. Any other questions? If you're watching this on replay, or if a question comes to you later, feel free to shoot me a message. My email is jessica@thelifestylecoachuk.com, and you'll get an email from me as well with this link, so you can just hit reply to that. So if you want to watch this back later, you'll get it'll at some point before the end of today. I'm going to go and have some lunch, because otherwise my brain will shut down. Because what have we just learned? Our brains need food. Is the co-working recorded? I don't know if the co-working's not recorded. So the co-working, there is a in the membership, there's a co-working video that you can play that has all the timers. But the co-working isn't a recorded session. It's just because we do it every week. It's a live recorded. Because we do it every week. It's a live video, and we do it on Zoom as well. So yeah, there's no recording on that. Just when I do workshops and masterclasses, that I go record them and put them into the membership. Awesome. Have an amazing day, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and ta-ta for now.
If you want to be happy, it's gonna have to be a lifestyle switch. And if you want to be happy, you're gonna have to do the work in deep. Quick fixes, vegan, fads and diets to take back your time and live your life for you. 'Cause if you want to be happy, it's gonna have to be a lifestyle switch.